Wow.
Mic wasn't on.
My audio intern, really. I feel like I just did so well.
I'm really sorry you did.
Although,
I got you on here.
But hold on, I fucked up saying her name, so I'm grateful that they didn't hear that. But
It's coming through now, loud and clear.
disappointed.
Coming through now.
All right, let's try this again. No, I'm
Okay.
just playing. So, what was your life like growing up? How was your childhood?
Yeah, I'm very blessed to be raised by two parents that loved me so much. I had 3 older brothers, so believe it or not, I was a bit of a tomboy, just growing up with boys, and they were, just put it this way, one of my brothers sent me to the hospital twice, mostly because he would be wrestling with me, you know, grabbing swords and all the things. So I definitely grew up with boys, always surrounded by boys, and just being super active. My parents were really big on just playing sports and getting out there, and did go to college. And I will say, college, I was probably like a lot of you guys can relate. I dabbled into a good amount of drugs and alcohol, and that's actually where my mental health really started suffering, and I feel I really started hitting a bad place, and I actually started experiencing a lot of pain, back pain. Long story short, I found out I had 2 herniated discs at the age of 21, and that definitely took a massive toll on my mental health, and it led me to end up having back surgery at a really young age.
I take it it's your brother's fault.
I want to blame them, yes, for sure.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
It's your fault, brother.
No, yeah. The doctors couldn't tell me. Some of it was genetic, some of it was probably because I tried to run off all the alcohol. I was nonstop drinking and didn't have the best habits, but I'm so grateful for that pivotal moment in my life, because although at the time I was really suffering mentally and I was becoming very addicted to opiates because I was prescribed so many opiates at a very young age, it was the pivotal moment in my life because that's what made me discover health and wellness. And I will admit that when I first got into health and wellness, it was all about the physical transformation. I was obsessed with trying to look better and look the part, right? But I quickly did discover that so much of it was mental. Like, I could look as good as I wanted to, but if I didn't mentally love myself and have that solid foundation with mental health, I was never going to be happy in my body. So that's what got me to really start to just prioritize my mental health and see the power of our minds.
And the power of our minds is insane.
Yes,
it literally
it is.
controls everything of our life. Do you feel that, were you drinking and other things before you went to college, or was it like
Oh
that?
yeah,
Okay.
for sure. In high school, yes, I definitely experienced, my brothers might have been a little bit of an influence with that,
I was gonna say
experiencing some of the drugs and alcohol.
Okay, but were you an everyday weekend drinker in high school, or was it
Yeah.
an occasion?
Yes.
Okay.
Every weekend in the high school, even someday senior year, I remember actually quitting sports, and a lot of that was because I wanted to party more. So dabbling with that, and then going to college, and I did go to college to become a teacher, and so my junior year of college, I really had a huge realization that I had to get my act together in order to get into the teaching program and start taking my grades a little bit more seriously. So I did start to cut back a little bit then, just to be able to get into that teaching program. But I was definitely had a great time in college. Let's put it that way.
That's part of college, right? To get
Yeah.
you that experience.
Yeah.
How was your transition out of college? You said you started to slow down the drinking.
Yes, for sure. So out of college was when soon after I had back surgery, and that's when I actually discovered health and wellness, and I got on my very first workout program, started doing all that, and then started really recognizing the power of our mind and just how much prioritizing my mental health could make me just be more motivated and happy with life and just more of this positive self-talk. And that's what actually what led me to build my own business, Positively Fit Community. And I named it Positively Fit Community on purpose because that positive mindset was everything to me, and that's what really changed my life. And I wanted to be able to use that to influence others to just have a more positive outlook on everything that they do.
Okay, I have a question. So one of my previous guests, he said that when he's struggling mentally, he used to work out, but he recently learned that if you're working out when you're struggling, you're strengthening your demons because you're working them out.
Yes. Yeah.
This is one where I lose my train of thought because I had a follow-up with
Yeah.
it, but I forgot.
Yeah,
So,
no, that makes sense. That makes total sense. And I do think that there are, and I've been on the extreme, so I got into my health journey and I actually did a bikini competition. So I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a very extreme diet. and I didn't necessarily have the resources or the tools to be able to prioritize my mindset. And so just like you said, I did take it extreme. I got down to like 93 pounds. I was freaking jacked, but I took everything to the far extreme that then led me to just really suffer mentally, experience some of that binge eating and just like that body dysmorphia of like never being enough in my body, you know? And so that was one of the things that pushed me too to be like, all right, there's got to be more than this, you know, there's more out there, and I've got to learn to love myself, because if I don't love myself, how the heck is anyone else going to love me?
Right, exactly. How did you, it's so crazy that these competitions promote health, right?
Yeah.
But the crazy things you go through and put yourself through to get to that competition, it's not physically or mentally healthy for you.
No, definitely not. Not at all.
And I could see how it quickly does become an addiction.
Oh, yeah.
And then it overtakes your life because for a while you don't eat much.
Yeah,
or anything.
absolutely. Definitely. I was eating less than 1,000 calories, so.
I cannot imagine how angry you were.
Yeah.
So what's part of the process for you to keep your mental health positive? Like, do you talk to yourself daily in like a loving way?
Absolutely. And I want to be real that I am not perfect, y'all. I have hard days. I definitely have moments where I catch myself, but I truly feel one of the most powerful things is not necessarily how you speak to yourself, but what you do about it. So if you recognize that you are speaking negatively towards yourself, you are tearing yourself down, or that you're having so much of the self-doubt, it's up to you to reframe that thinking. It's up to you to acknowledge it, accept it, and then turn those thoughts around and be like, you know what? I'm not going to think that way. Instead, I'm going to tell myself right now, I can do this. I am amazing. I have whatever it takes, I am capable. So I truly feel that is one of the most important things, is just learning how to reframe your thinking and acknowledge your thoughts.
One huge part about reframing your thinking is you actually have to stand guard of your mental health 24/7, because all of a sudden you catch yourself and you're in this spiral of, man, I hate life, I hate myself, or whatever it could be. And you have to use everything inside you to use those positive I am statements, right? But I'm not going to lie, there are times where I just want to hate and hate and hate. And I feel like no matter what I tell myself, I know it's a straight lie. And it's so hard to pull myself out, but I am proud of myself because I pull myself out way faster.
And just like you were mentioning earlier, it's a muscle. It's a muscle that you have to work. So it's one of those things that the more you do it, the easier it does become, right? The more that we prioritize our mental and our physical health, the more that it becomes a lifestyle and it becomes these habits, and the less of those hard days you are going to have. And the stronger you are going to be able to get yourself out of those hard days or those hard moments that you might be facing.
Right. It's all about your mindset, and then in the beginning, everything's going to be hard. Even when you started lifting weights, you probably could barely lift the bar at first, you know, and now you're pushing out 225 easily, right?
Maybe not that far, but we'll go with that. We'll go with it.
So what did you do after college? Did you get right into teaching?
Yes. I went to grad school, actually. Went to grad school, did the 5-year program, and then got right into teaching. That's right about when I was having back surgery and kind of going through all of that, and started to slowly, start to work on, experience the physical health side of things, mental health. And I taught elementary school for 4th year. I did a bikini competition the 3rd year. And then the 4th year was when I really recognized that I had a huge passion for this health and wellness and helping people. And at first I was just doing a little bit of it on the side, because we all know teachers do not get paid enough. So my heart goes out to you, teachers. But I was just trying to make a little extra cash, and I can clearly remember this moment when I was working on a cookbook for a few clients that I had, and one of my kids came up to me and they were like, Miss Loda, and at that moment I realized my intention wasn't on the kids anymore, that I was thinking so much about my health coaching business and where I wanted that to go, and I knew I had to make a decision because it wasn't fair to them that my heart wasn't there. And so that was the moment I decided that I really wanted to go all in. And I actually remember calling my boyfriend at the time after, being like, I have this crazy idea that I want to move from Virginia cross country to California and just start this health coaching business. And he thought I was a little crazy at the time, but I ended up doing it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it seems to be going well because now you're still here. But how'd you get from California to Arizona?
Yeah, so I, finished up a school year, moved out to California. I felt like LA was the hub of social media and fitness, and I thought putting myself in that atmosphere would force me to grow and just get uncomfortable and put myself out there. And so we did that. We were in California, and it was an amazing experience, but I did realize that it was not where I wanted to necessarily settle down, start a family, buy a house, and just run a business in California. If you're in California, you already know it can be a lot. So that's what led us to come to Arizona.
Okay, and I want to back up a little bit. Thank you for finding that your heart wasn't in it and not teaching the kids anymore. Not that you weren't a good teacher still.
Yeah.
But if you're not going to give it your all, why are you there?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's awesome that you had the courage to okay, I went to school for 7 years plus for this, and now I'm going to do something different. That's awesome. So. Yeah,
and I know a lot of people listening can probably relate. I mean, there's so many of us that we go down this one path, and then down the line we realize, wow, it's not for us anymore. Our heart might not be there. And I just want to encourage and remind people that that's okay. It is okay to make a change no matter what age you're at. It's okay to make a change and make that pivot in your life.
Absolutely, especially since life is short. And if you're not doing what you're happy with, why are you doing it? Stop being miserable.
Yeah, 100%.
Stop chasing that paycheck.
And other people's opinions. Because I will say,
yes.
letting go of teaching was so hard for my parents. They were not supportive. They were like, you just went to college and all this money, all the things as parents, and they were not about it at all. And it was really hard, but I realized that this is my life. I got to make my own decisions, and I can't live my life for them, and I had to just go off and do it, and honestly kind of prove them wrong. I had to prove to them that, you know what, I can do this. I'm going to use all of your negative comments as fuel to fire me up and prove myself I can do it.
I went through a similar situation, and I was joining the Marine Corps, right?
Yeah.
My parents did not want me to leave, but that's because they were afraid and scared. But as soon as I graduated, they were #1 supporters, it was nice.
Yeah.
But parents' opinions and views are very hard to go against.
100%, especially when they love you. I do want to reiterate that my parents love me so much, and I'm grateful for that. And I know that a lot of it was coming out of love, out of fear, and they were raised in a very different generation. They didn't understand the whole entrepreneur world, and they were probably scared. But their strong opinions, they were trying to get to me, and I knew that ultimately, I got to live my life for me, and if I didn't give it a chance, if I didn't try, I would always wonder, what if I had done that?
Right. That's awesome. Was that your first time that you can recall going against your parents' wishes in such an extreme way?
Yes, I would say moving cross country was another big extreme of, especially California. They weren't necessarily big advocates for California. Going there was definitely a big change, and then going on, I would say yes, that's definitely the biggest extreme. But I mean, let's go back to drugs and alcohol in high school and college. Of course, they weren't necessarily about that too. Right. So I definitely had some challenging moments.
But I'm talking about healthy things you did, not.
Yeah, for sure.
How do you manage going against their wishes in a sense, or manage disagreeing with their opinion but still loving them and not having resentment towards them?
Yeah, I realized too that I had to kind of start keeping some of my thoughts and my opinions to myself, because I knew, especially when it came to the health and wellness business that I was wanting to create, or even when I did a bikini competition, they were not about that either, that I had to just keep some of those things to myself, and those weren't topics that I was going to really bring up to discussion with them, because we weren't going to be on the same page about it. So that was a big thing, but also learning to just kind of push my feelings aside and realize too that it's more that they just don't understand, and that's okay. I don't need to force them to understand. They don't need to understand, because at the end of the day, it's what I want to do.
Right, because that's something that's hard for me, right? I love my parents, but I just want to tell them everything I'm doing, but then they're I don't want to say they have a small mindset, right?
Yeah.
But they're just not in the same area that I am, right?
Yes.
They, like you said, they were raised differently. They had different experiences, and they're not as open to things.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard, because you tell them something you're excited about and passionate about, and then they just squash it a bug. They don't mean to. They're just trying to look out for me, but their way of looking out is not.
Yeah. So again, I just learned that, even I recently built a house. They were not necessarily on that either, and I realized I started keeping a lot of things that I knew they weren't going to see eye to eye with to myself. because I didn't want our relationship to become this negative thing where we're arguing back and forth. You know, I want to continue to have a loving relationship with them. So I became more careful of like what conversations and what things I was bringing up to them.
How do you manage it once that happens? Because now you got this house. Congratulations, by the way, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But now you have this house, or you can be like, surprise!
Oh, I mean, yes, they ended up finding all that out, and I kind of told them, like, oh, I was able to qualify for this loan. I was able to, and originally I asked my dad to co-sign, and that was a no, absolutely not. That was when the discussion happened, and I realized that, okay, you know what, this is a good learning point for me. Like, if I want something, I got to do it on my own, and I can do it on my own. It just took me a little bit longer to be able to do that on my own. But, and I will say, like, they, even with my business, like, they're very proud of me now. It's seen what I've been able to do, and especially once they started hearing testimonies of the lives I've changed, that was a big moment of like, wow, like, what you're doing actually does matter. This is great. So, and same thing with the house. They've come to visit, and they're, like, so impressed, and they love it. And sometimes you gotta just prove,
nice.
You gotta just prove people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
How do you, when you catch yourself getting negative about a situation like this, right? Like, or you tell your parents something when your dad said no, co-sign.
Yeah.
Like, how did you fight your mental health to not allow you to spiral downwards, or to hold you back from moving forward, getting the
For
house?
sure. So I do feel that it's very important to let yourself feel the emotions. So if anything happens in your life and it makes you very angry or sad, let those emotions out. We can't hide them, because a lot of times when we hide them, they just catch up to us later, right? So I do feel it's very important for us to let ourselves feel the emotions. If you need to take a day to be mad, to be angry, to be negative, take the day. And then, like I said, again, it's up to you to choose to reframe your thinking. And something I always love to do is when life throws me curveballs and throws me these obstacles, or people say no to me, I let myself be angry, and then I strive to see the lesson. There's always a lesson. Life is always trying to teach you something. One of my favorite quotes is that it's not happening to you, but it's happening for you. I always remind myself that. And not all the time can I see it right in the moment, but I remind myself no matter what life is throwing at me, it's not happening to me like we think it is. In fact, a lot of times it happens for you.
Right, absolutely. Especially even if it's a heartbreak, it's happening
Yes.
for you.
Oh, yeah.
Because that person wasn't meant for you to who you want to
100%.
be.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if your spirituality, and we don't have to dive in if you don't want to, but
Yeah.
I feel like God does things for a reason, although while you're in the moment, it may seem like, God, you hate me.
Oh, 100%. I totally believe that.
But a great saying that I learned from my therapist is that you're inside the forest trying to see the path out, and this path looks correct, but somebody else is outside the forest, and
Yeah.
God's outside the forest. Like, I can see the direct path.
Yeah,
Right? This
absolutely.
is not it.
100%. I totally feel that with everything that happened in my life. My back surgery, I mean, at the time, I was 21. I thought that was like the worst thing that could ever happen to someone at 21 years old, right? But turns out that was the best thing that could happen to me. That's what sparked my whole health and wellness journey. That's what got me to start forming a loving relationship with myself, which led me to create my own business.
Isn't it crazy how, I'm just going to say a bad event
Yeah.
can turn so positive for you?
100%,
right?
yeah.
Like, I don't know the extent of your opiate use, right? But let's just say it formed an addiction for you in order to save you,
Yeah.
which is so crazy.
Yeah,
because
it
we don't
is.
see it that way.
Yeah.
And don't use that as an excuse
Yeah.
to have an addiction,
No,
right?
it's definitely not. But hey, if you are going through something that seems really traumatic and rough and terrible, just use our stories that we're talking about right now as a good reminder that it's happening. There's a reason it's happening, and you are powerful enough to get through it, and there's going to be a lesson, and there's going to be a reason.
Absolutely. Like, you just got to breathe and get through
Yeah.
it. And one thing I'm working on is bringing myself back into the moment, right? And another thing I realized, it's like I've known it, but it's like sunk in now, is that when somebody triggers you, it's not what they're doing. It's something inside you
yes.
that is getting triggered to act, making you snap, making you shut down,
Yeah.
whatever your reaction is. So when that starts happening to me, I try to catch it as soon as I can. Like,
Yeah.
okay, well, why did my wife do this? Make me mad or
Yeah.
make me react this
Yeah,
way?
yeah,
What is my core trauma to this?
I love that. That's so powerful. I know something else that I love to turn to when I can't necessarily see the reason, the lesson, or maybe I can't even understand what's triggering me at the time. I love to just have my backup plan as turning to gratitude. because I know that although not every day might be good, there is good in every day. And if we can't even think of anything that we're grateful for, I always turn to my body and my health, because I know not every single person woke up today. Not every person gets to live another day. And I always have to be grateful that I'm here and that I am living right now.
Right. Yeah. I'm starting to say like, I wake up in the morning and say what I'm grateful for, or say like a little prayer, talk to God however I want. And like sometimes all I can get out is like, I'm grateful I woke up today.
Exactly.
You know?
And that's if you can't think of anything in the moment, anything else, turn to that, because we all can be grateful that we are alive.
And so with your back surgery, you were still going through college, and so you had to have surgery and then get back into class.
Yes.
That had to be very draining and hard, because like you said, it seems like it took a toll on you that you needed this surgery. Like, why me? I'm only 21 years old, 22 years old.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It took a really big toll, if anything, on my mental health. I really struggled mentally of like, why is this happening to me? Why am I in so much pain? And as I'm sure many people know, the more that we focus on the pain, the more the pain gets intensified. And I had that fixation of this pain and like, why? And so it only made it that much harder, that much worse.
And same thing with a problem. If you only focus on your problems, it's
You
only
start
gonna
attracting
grow.
those problems. Yeah.
And that's so weird. I used to think that was some like hippie shit, right?
Yeah.
Like manifestation and like talking about things, talking it into tuition. But I'm a hippie now, so I understand it, and I don't understand it. I'm learning to understand it, and I'm trying to manifest more. Like, I'm already a millionaire, you know?
Heck
so
yeah.
we're both, all four of us are all millionaires already, so it's great. Do you know what pulled you out of it? Like, what woke you up? Like, okay, I need to stop these opiates. I need to get back. I need to work on me.
Yeah, it was a positive influence on my life. It was a person. So actually it was my brother's girlfriend that is now his wife at the time. I remember being on this beach vacation, family vacation, and she was walking in this thong bikini with so much confidence and just this inner glow, and I was like, what is she on? She just looked so happy and confident in her body, and just the way that she held herself, and I was the opposite of that at the time. And I remember having a conversation with her, and she was the one that she was a personal trainer, so she put me on my very first workout program, and the rest kind of became history. So
that's awesome that you have that. Do you consider her your mentor then for this?
Yeah, she was one that definitely inspired me to do my very first bikini competition. She had done one to kind of start my business, and so it's crazy how much one person can make a massive difference in your life.
Right. And they go from being a stranger. It's not even somebody you grew up with. It's like somebody that was a stranger yesterday and now is like your best friend or just an acquaintance in your life, but they can have such a positive role, because like even this conversation, I was asking you so much about like how you handle things with your parents, because I'm in a similar situation, right? And I still actively try to work through it, like try to see their side of things, but it's just like, come on. Like, let's just be happy or positive. But that's how they are. Like, that's what they know. So it's not their fault. Yeah,
exactly. And to be honest, it's so hard for us to rewire our brain. So to change our beliefs and the way that we're thinking, it is not an easy thing to do. It takes a lot of work, a lot of self-development.
Yeah, it is hard. What methods do you use to rewire your brain?
Yeah, so I'm a coach, but I truly believe in coaches, the power of, or therapy, having a therapist, having a second set of eyes to kind of help you work through some of that trauma to rewire your brain. I did get certified with an NLP, which is all about neuro-linguistic programming. It's all about the programming of the mind. So I learned a lot within that, but I've also hired hypnotherapists myself. I worked with NLP practitioners and worked with a ton of coaches to just work on my own self-development journey and to become stronger and learn so many more methods.
You said NLP? Mm-hmm. So can you go into that a little bit more? Like, what does that consist of?
Yeah, so really I studied basically the subconscious and conscious mind. I studied also learning how to rewire our brain thoughts, reframing your thinking. That is an NLP tactic that they talk so much about.
That's awesome. So what is a method that you use? So like if you were coaching me right now, what's something you would tell me?
Yeah. So I would say like within our clients, some of the biggest things we work on is reframing, learning to acknowledge your thoughts, because a lot of people they aren't in tune with themselves. They can't even acknowledge how they're feeling or why they're having all these emotions. They're starting to learn how to acknowledge that and to kind of do some of that inner work to figure out where it's coming from and what might be stemming it. And like a lot of it too is going back to our early childhood, because actually when we're 0 to 7, that is all us programming our subconscious. So we're sponges at that time, right? So sometimes you have to do some of this inner child work where you have to kind of go back to your childhood and learn when you were first taught that and told that, and kind of start to do that process of essentially rewiring your brain and your thought patterns.
That sounds really interesting and something
I know it's a lot.
No, it may be a lot, but it's definitely needed. It shouldn't be a lot. It should be something that's taught to us from 0 to 7. So.
And I really stress to clients and to anyone listening that there's so many ways that we can prioritize our mental health, whether it's through breath work or through meditation or through prayer or self-development books or journaling, free writing. And I highly recommend just try some of these things out and figure out what's going to work for you. Because maybe, your thing is breath work, but it might not be for me. And that's okay, because we're going to be very different. So you're going to have to try some of these things out until you discover like what your thing's going to be.
That's so true, because I always say therapy's not a one-shoe-fits-all.
Mm-hmm.
So that's with my meetups that I host after this. That's why I try to offer like a free holistic health version of some sort of therapy or therapeutic method you can use to help yourself. Because one, you're going to hopefully, let's be honest, they're not going to pay to go try something, but if they can get it for free here, or maybe they just listen and hear what's happening, they can take that tool home and it'll help them at a later date.
Yeah,
so we
absolutely.
offer like painting.
Yeah.
We call it puff and paint, right? But painting is very therapeutic.
Absolutely,
it brings you back into the moment, what you're doing, and is very beneficial. And then we also have a yoga instructor that comes in.
That.
And I have a energy healer coming in October.
Yeah,
and I'm
that's
just trying to
amazing.
bring in all sorts of different
so you can
tools.
try different things and you can figure out what's going to be for you, what's going to work for you. And then obviously the most important aspect is taking action and actually implementing it into your life.
You absolutely have to do the homework.
Yes,
because I've been in therapy for years. But for years, I wouldn't do the homework. And I'm like, well, why isn't anything happening?
Yeah.
Well, you're going once a week, maybe once a month, and you just expect your life to change? Like,
100%. No, you got to do the work. And you got to figure out, what's going to work for you. And then I'm a big believer in, I call them non-negotiables. Okay. And so the non-negotiables are things that you're going to do for yourself every day. That is a non-negotiable, meaning no matter what life throws at you, you're still going to implement those things. And I always turn to a lot of the basic healthy habits of, drinking your water, making sure we're getting some quality sleep, eating some fruits and veggies, getting those micronutrients in. Mine is also a daily walk. Like I always strive to get some type of movement in every day. Usually it's walking. I have dogs, so that helps. But yeah, I have those non-negotiables, as well as I do something for my mental health every day, whether it's reading or the journaling or meditation. I kind of switch it up.
That's an awesome program to have.
Yeah.
Are you women only? Or do you teach
Yes,
everybody?
I will say for my health coaching business, Positively Fit Community, we are a female-only business, female-owned and operated, and that's because we really wanted to create a safe space for females to feel like they open up, and I'm very grateful we have. So people will feel very comfortable to open up with what they're struggling with, and they're going to know that someone else in the community is probably either struggling with it too, or they have at some point. So they're going to get that support and feedback.
No, that's awesome. So can you share more on how any women can find you?
Yeah, so if you just search Positively Fit Community on Instagram or even on Google, on the web, you're going to find our website and our Instagram. And really just to give you a little rundown of Positively Fit Community, we focus a lot on health and wellness, and mindset is a huge part. So I like to say there's 3 pillars: nutrition, mindset, and movement. All of our programs are completely customized to the individual person. We believe that is where we get the most results and are able to do that inner work that's necessary. And we have a huge community base. We have over, I would say, about 250 clients right now inside the community. So lots of moms. Moms are a big one. And just this is a great place to just connect with some other women that are probably on the same similar journey as you.
That's awesome. Are you virtual or is it in person?
So all of it is virtual. However, every single year I do host a Positively Fit event, and I've used this event as a way to bring the community together, but as well as to give back. I'm a huge believer in giving back. So every year we actually do partner with a nonprofit to help raise some money. So this year, the event is taking place on September 23rd in Scottsdale, Arizona. I actually have rented out the Elk Lodge. Have you heard of the Elk Lodge?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, we have a DJ coming. I got the Elk Lodge to do every alcohol drink sold. They're going to be donating $1. We got a bunch of games. It's a free event, completely open to the public. So we encourage you to bring your kids, your significant other, your friends, family. Everyone is welcome. We got a lot of raffles, a lot of donations, and our goal is to have a great time and raise some money. And actually this year, I am personally going to be matching whatever we raise. So I'm hoping we can hit our goal of $10,000 that we will be donating to Miracle Baby. Have you heard of Miracle Baby?
I have not. Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, so it's a nonprofit here local in Arizona where they are helping support a family that is struggling with having a baby, struggling with fertility. So we're very excited to be able to give back and just help this family because going through that process is very expensive. It actually costs about $25,000 to $30,000 to go through that. So we're hoping to be able to really help them fund a family.
Okay, and we can find this information on your website then?
Yes, we have an Eventbrite that has a lot of the details. Again, it's a free event, but I'm going to start really pushing it out all over social media as well too. We have about 10 girls flying in from across the country, so we're very excited to just meet a lot of clients. We have a huge Arizona clientele as well too. So
that's good. That's awesome, and I'm gonna have to keep an eye out on that.
Yes,
and try to
for
make it out there. That'd be
We'd
cool.
love that.
And so you talked about you help a lot of moms.
Yes.
Have any of the I'm sure the moms struggle with postpartum.
Oh yeah.
And what helps them with that? What's a little tip that you can give?
So I will say that I have 4 coaches that work for me with Positively Fit Community, and 3 out of the 4 of them are postpartum certified. So they really specialize in that. They have a lot more education within the postpartum, just having that certification and being moms themselves. So they're the ones who kind of focus mostly with them. But I would say realistically with, moms going through postpartum, a lot of it's learning to rediscover who you are and connect with yourself on that deeper level after having your baby, and just learning to recognize that prioritizing yourself is not selfish. I know a lot of moms feel that they don't have the time, or it might be selfish, they need to do so much for their kids, but in reality, by them prioritizing themselves, they're going to be able to show up for their kids that much better, and their significant others, their family, as well as the way that they're talking to themselves. That's how they're teaching their kid to talk to themselves. The way they love themselves is how they're teaching their kids to love themselves.
That is a great way to put things, I believe.
Yeah.
And did you know that males and dads can go through postpartum as well?
I believe it.
It's like a 1 in 10, I believe. And I'm going to say I definitely went through it. I have a 4-month-old and a 3-year-old, and then a 10 and a 15-year-old. But with my 4-month-old, I'm going to say I definitely went through it in the beginning. It was very hard to feel connected, and I just wasn't there.
Yeah.
I was there, but I wasn't present.
Yeah.
It was very hard.
Yeah. So what has helped you be able to get out of that?
Honestly, I just kind of forgot about it. However, I did buy a book that was, talked about God and postpartum and men and that. It was the only book I could find on it, and I read the cover. So I failed myself at working towards getting out of it. I was preoccupied, but I put my mind towards just paying more attention to my kids. I may not feel it, but fake it till you make it, right? And so things have changed, and my little 4-month-old just loves me. When we come home, or when I come home, you see her face, and she just starts smiling and trying to move towards you and that.
I love that. Such a good reminder how powerful our mind is, and it goes back to some of that reframing we were talking about. You might feel like you hate yourself, or you hate how you look in your body, but I promise you, just like he said, the more that you start to tell yourself you love yourself and you look amazing in your body, you might not think it in the beginning. The more that you start to tell yourself, eventually you're going to start to feel it, and then you're going to start to believe it.
Yeah.
And that's how you rewire your brain.
Repetition.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's been a week and a half, 2 weeks that I've been on-off, reminding myself that I love myself in the mirror, and I'll talk to myself. Today I forgot until I was in the car ride here, so I was carefully looking in the mirror, telling myself, it was at a stoplight, but telling myself that I love myself. And then I'm sure I'm not doing it right because I didn't do the proper research, but they also recommended taking 10 fast, deep breaths afterwards, and it's supposed to help. So breath work is something I want to learn more about and get into.
Ben loves breath work. He's all about that. It's a great tool. We're actually at our we're doing a VIP event Friday before the big event Saturday, and we're doing a lot of breath work because we know that's very powerful.
So what's going to happen at your event? Is it just like a mingle where people...
Yeah, so it's going to be a big social hour. It's from 6 to 9 that I reserve the Alk Lodge, and really it's just going to be a great time. We got a DJ, like I said. We're going to have lots of games going on, just photo booth, big social hour, as well as we are going to have a lot of raffles. There are going to be some other vendors, small businesses that are there as well to kind of advertise their stuff. Got a food truck too, because we all, all love that stuff, and all of the vendors are helping us support this great cause. So
that's amazing. Make sure you send me that, and at the minimum, I'll share it.
Yes,
I do plan on trying to attend with my family.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Nice. Yeah, they have lots of things to do outside, which is great. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it won't be too hot here.
When is it again?
It's September 23rd. So, and it's at night, 6 to 9.
It should be cool. It should be cool.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
This summer has been terrible.
Yeah. I feel like it's been not too bad.
The beginning of summer wasn't bad, and then I left to go to California for the 4th of July, and that's when it shot up to like 100 something.
Yeah, July was a little brutal, but August, honestly, it hasn't been too bad. Knock on wood.
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah.
So what are you up to now?
Yeah. So I recently got engaged.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So
congratulations, Ben.
And we definitely, which parents, going back to that, they are just didn't really understand the approach. We took a very untraditional approach. We started businesses. We built a house. We got dogs. Moved in together. We kind of put marriage on the back burner. I am 32, so kind of put that as not something we were going to do as right then the priority. We've been dating for a very, very long time too. So, but yeah, so finally got engaged, and we are going to start, planning the wedding and doing all that. With my coaching business, I just brought on another coach, so just really hoping to expand and continue to change more lives and help more people.
Congratulations.
Yes.
But I feel like to society standards, you did things backwards, but I feel like for a healthy relationship, you did things right?
Yeah.
Like you went through the hard part of the stressful part of starting a business, quitting a job, starting a business, and you're still together.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. That's got to prove how healthy your relationship is.
I laugh and tell Ben that we've dated longer than some people have been married.
It's not a lie.
Yeah. So no, we are in a really great place, and we do really hope to start a family. So I'm excited for that next chapter when it comes.
So was it Ben's idea to wait, or was it your a collaborative?
It was a collaborative idea.
Not to
for
throw you
sure,
under the bus.
But I would say he was more of the advocate of like, this is what you really want to do with growing your business and having us be in a stable environment and everything before we start that next chapter. And I'm so glad we did wait, because I can tell you now too that if we would have gotten married when 5-6 years ago, wedding would have been totally different, totally for my parents, totally for all of them. And now I am very confident that it's going to be about us. We're going to do it the way that we want to do it. And yes.
So I want to go back a little bit, but my question stems from, are you going to have cannabis at your wedding? Is this like your style of wedding then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I want to hear how you're going to include that.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
I wish I could tell you more, but that's definitely more of Ben.
Okay.
Ben's being the advocate with that. I'm not quite sure. I will say that we are trying to do destinations. So we are right now looking at Puerto Rico. So we will have to make sure that everything, agrees with wherever the destination we're doing it. But definitely we do hope to incorporate that in some way.
Okay. So how were you able to use cannabis medicinally to help you get off your opioids?
Yes, so I'm very, very grateful for cannabis. Ben, actually, my fiance now, we were dating back then, so about 13 years ago, I want to say, when I was 21, and he was the one that was really fascinated with the science behind cannabis and how we could use it for medicine, and he was the one that introduced me to it. And I definitely remember being very skeptical at the time, because I had only seen cannabis as let's get high and just more of like socializing
The recreation.
Yeah. But I eventually, a couple years later, I did decide I was at the point where I would try anything, because even after back surgery, I was still using opiates, I was still using muscle relaxers, I was still getting cortisol shots because I was having flare-ups, like I was still dealing with a lot of pain. And so I started utilizing it, and it just slowly over time helped me completely wean off the painkillers. And also, I do like to really stress that I do feel prioritizing my mental and physical health was another huge reason that I was able to decrease the pain. And again, knock on wood, I have not really experienced any flare-ups or back pains for a couple years now, which is amazing. However, I do still use cannabis for pain. Whenever my back might start to feel really tense or flares up, or I am a female that suffers from really bad cramps when that time of the month comes, and I have tried everything, and there's nothing that helps me like cannabis does.
Is there a specific strain that you go to during that time?
Yeah, I definitely prefer more of the indica. Indica strains I feel help so much more when it comes to the pain.
Okay, so indica's more of like the head high as well, right? Mm-hmm. So do you feel that using indica helps with your mental health, as in like you're not focusing on the problem anymore because it's taking that thought process away in a sense?
And I try to explain this to my parents too, because they again also see cannabis as like, oh, you're just trying to get high. And I explain to them that when I'm in severe pain, like when I do have flare-ups or my cramps come and I'm in severe pain, when I utilize cannabis, I do not get high like I would if I was just using it for fun. It's so different because my body is actually utilizing it as medicine. So it's not the same high.
You know, that is such a great point that I have recognized myself but never put it into words like that, right? Because like when you're stressed out, angry, in pain, and you smoke cannabis, however you use it, you tend to, or I tend to not, I'm like, dude, I'm smoking them, I don't feel anything. Mm-hmm. But my stress level has gone down, my anger has gone down, my pain has gone down. So that's a great way.
I also feel like when I am in severe pain, I can consume so much more, right? And still function because my body is actually utilizing it and helping to decrease that pain. And like you said with your mind, I think that's a big part of it as well too.
Yeah, and the stigma behind it with my parents, I feel the same way.
Oh, yeah.
My dad's a retired cop now, so weed was always the devil's lettuce and just wrong and illegal, right? And even to this day, he's okay with me doing it, but he still makes his like little comments to himself. However, he's the one that needs it the most right now.
Right?
Like,
Yeah. So, and to this day, I don't utilize any opiates. I don't even use Advil or ibuprofen. I use solely cannabis whenever I'm in any pain. I also I don't know if you've ever used like those icy hot roll-ons, like the menthol roll-ons.
Okay.
Usually they have like CBD in them.
Okay.
I love to look for a full spectrum and rub that on if I have cramps or if I have like my lower back pain, and I love that as well as consuming it. But
okay, do you take them like capsules, or do you just smoke or have an edible? Or
yeah, personally, I enjoy flower the most. I feel that that helps me the most when I'm in pain, the flower, and I'm very grateful Ben can roll little J's and does that for me. Okay. I don't necessarily know how to do that, but he does it, or we have like a little bowl that we'll use.
Yeah, so I don't feel like these knuckles are dexterity enough. Have the dexterity enough. So I have a special grinder that just into a cone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
I cheat, but it works for me.
Sometimes we'll have the pre-rolls, but he's very, very picky of like quality, especially if you're in pain.
But that's good though.
Yeah, and he says that rolling it himself will be better quality. So
do you have a strain that you go to when you feel like you're mentally stressed or strained?
You know, again, I wish I could tell you,
Ben
but he
answers.
is always been the one that's been fascinated. He's the one that goes and buys it and does all that, so I'm very grateful for that. But I know it's indica. I'm not a fan of sativa. I feel it just gets in my head too much.
Okay.
And especially with pain, I've always found that indica definitely helps way more.
That's awesome. And again, cannabis is going to be something that's different for everybody.
Yes.
So what may work for her may not work for you.
And
so.
In the event, if anyone's around, it's gonna be a great time. I would love to meet you, love to just give back. And if you ever have any questions, or I have a ton of free resources that we have created. So if you ever need help with anything, please feel free to reach out. I'm all about helping and giving back any way I can.
And how can people reach you again?
Yeah, so my Instagram handle is FitLittleMeg, so you can reach me there or on the Positively Fit Community Instagram.
Okay, and do you have a website?
Yes, I have a website as well. So again, just search positivelyfitcommunity.com. That will pop up. And I also have a I also have a podcast called Positively Fit Podcast.
Okay, so how did you let me rephrase this. Have you incorporated cannabis into your coaching programs?
So it's one of those things that we haven't never necessarily pushed, but we've advocated for, especially women that might be dealing when it comes to any type of pain or inflammation, especially CBD. That's been something we've pushed a lot of, just because a lot more people, it's a great way to open them up to it, the
Right.
CBD and stuff, but yes.
Yeah, I like how you said you don't force it, but you push it in a sense, right?
Yeah, just educate on it. We're all about educating. Actually, Ben one time came on and did this whole educational call on terpenes and the importance of terpenes and the entourage effect. So love just being a resource to give more education on cannabis and how it can be utilized, especially if people are dealing with pain or sleep. Sleep is a big one. A lot of us moms and females know they can struggle with sleep or anxiety. So we really like to educate on how it can be a great natural alternative.
And the cool part about cannabis is that if you do start to take too much, you could take CBD to counteract it.
Yeah.
And there are companies out there that are making drinks, or I know of a drink that will reverse the effects as well, so it will bring you down.
I love that. I one time had this experience where I ate way too much of an edible, and I wish I had that then.
Yeah. I want to say it's actually called High Be Gone or something like that.
That's awesome.
I want a sponsorship, so.
Yeah, remember that.
Yeah. All right, well, was there anything else?
That's it. Thank you so much for having me. I loved being on here, and I hope that you guys listening were able to get something out of this episode.
Yeah, and thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it, and I like the side of mental health that you brought and your experiences you shared.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a great opportunity.
Well, thank you.
And I'd like to invite you to, if you ever want to come teach a class at the meetups, and if you want to make it females only, we could work out how to make that happen.
For sure. I have another coach that's local, so I could bring her along as well too, and we would love to help out any way we can.
Awesome, sounds good. And at the end of every episode, I'm gonna have someone stand up and give me a hug. So we're gonna
stand up and give a hug.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
I really appreciate you. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
How do you think it was?
I think it went well. How do you feel?
Yeah.
Do you have to leave?
I don't know what time.